live now. Okay,
We're on?
we're on.
All right.
Wait, I gotta get fluidated.
Fluidated. Oh, yes, fluidated. Oh, my God. We got to say it
Hydrated
right.
for those who are educated and into the science.
Yeah. Stupid people that buy all
Introduce
those bottles
yourself.
of water. What?
Introduce yourself.
I am the time traveler coming to you from the 19th century because that's where I lived most of my life. I think like that. I am like that. And, of course, next to me is Mr. Frank Ordaz, otherwise known as Don Panchito Villa.
Known on K-High as your common sensei.
Common sensei, yes. And you know, last week I got beat up. I got beat up all over the damn place because I let you talk do all the talking, but you were on a roll.
Your fans demand a lot of you. I mean,
Yes,
they want to
well.
look at the podcast and hear
Have you ever,
wisdom or
have
from
you- look.
the elder sage.
have you ever sat next to yourself and talked? Your arms are flapping all over the place. I want to get the hell out of the way.
That's
You are
know,
a dangerous man.
That's right.
Anyway.
Even you said that one time. You said, "I'm a dangerous man."
No, I
And
said
referring to yourself.
Yeah, well, I think you now know that there's probably some truth in that.
There is.
Anyway, so I was going to, I think you have, I don't know what you're going to talk about. I have a
We're
feeling
going to talk
kind
about
of,
programming, because
Yeah,
remember we
oh,
talked
programming.
about indoctrination. Another word for that is programming. Go ahead.
Okay, well, anyway, what I'd like to ask all of our people out there, whoever's listening, where are the true environmentalists? Where are the environmentalists? The people who care about our environment, people who care about our planet, our green people. Where are they?
Like everything you see here, preserving the green.
Yeah, well, where are they? Because I have a little problem with that. Here's the problem I have with all that green stuff. We got these new, and I know there are people who buy electric cars because they think that they're cheaper. I don't think they are, but whatever. And we got people think that they're actually truly saving the environment. But I have a problem with most of that. I think that the people who are invested in this green energy are environmental rapists.
Wow.
Rapists. Did I get that right? Did I say that right? Rapists? Let me give you an
Now,
example.
you're coming out swinging.
Let me give you an example. Well, I had a guy who was talking to me the other day, and well, this is a zero emission car. Yeah, okay, zero emission. That's fine. That's what's kicking out of it. What's kicking into it? Okay, let's talk about what's kicking in to your environmental green electric car. Batteries, and I'm not going to read this verbatim, but I mean, there's just stuff in here. This is the Epic magazine, Epic newspaper. This is one of them.
I thought it was Epoch.
Okay, whatever. You know, we argued about this before.
Epic is spelled E-P-I-C.
Yeah, I know. I pronounced it epoch, and you corrected me.
E-P-O-C-H.
I would call it epoch,
Okay.
but now that I call it, since you corrected me, I call it epic.
Okay.
Epic is not
Well,
really right.
I'm glad you came loaded for bear. I'm
Yeah.
impressed. I am impressed.
All right. Batteries do not create electricity. They store electricity generated elsewhere, especially through what? Coal, uranium, natural gas-powered power plants, and diesel-powered generators. So the claim that the electric car is zero-emission vehicle is not true at all. And you people, just remember, I consider a lot of you people to be environmental rapists. Since 40% of the electricity produced in the U.S.
Slow down. So I can understand you. You don't want to be like that gal in that Republican debate last night.
Oh,
Habla
my
Espanol. It was kind of hard to understand
Oh,
her.
gee,
I didn't
but-
see it, but the couple little clips I heard, it's like, hello?
Did you watch the second debate?
I didn't watch it.
No, I watched. Oh my God, what a disaster!
I know
It
they're
was-
all talking over each
It was
other. What a
du-
clown
it-
show.
Yeah, like
So,
you and me. It was like a dumpster fire.
Yeah,
It
so-
was.
Pronounced so they, so it doesn't sound like Espanol.
I am so sorry. Let me correct myself. Thank you, Frank.
Yeah.
Since 40% of the electricity produced in the USA comes from coal-powered plants, 40% of electric cars on the road are coal-based. It's a coal-fired car. But that's not all. Those of you excited about electric cars and green revolution should take a closer look at the batteries. The typical electric car battery weighs 1,000 pounds, about the size of a suitcase. It contains 25 pounds of lithium, 60 pounds of nickel, 44 pounds of manganese, 30 pounds of cobalt, 200 pounds of copper, and 400 pounds of aluminum, steel, and plastic. There are, incidentally, those things are really, you know what they're run by? 6,000 individual little batteries. So you got a bunch of 9-volt batteries put together. Did you know that?
I did not know that. But
That's-
what you're insinuating is people, or rather miners, have to dig into Mother Earth to
Well,
get these precious metals. Is that what you're saying?
Let me get to you, but just remember, folks, all that is a whole bunch of 9-volt or 12-volt batteries put together. To make each battery, you'll need to process 25,000 pounds of salt for lithium, 30 pounds of ore for the cobalt, 5,000 pounds of resin for the nickel, and 25,000 pounds of ore from the copper. In other words,
That's just for one battery?
they're going to have to dig out 500,000 pounds of Earth's crust. That's a lot of groundwork. All right. The other thing part that is, this is the other thing too, and people don't talk
Most of
about
it's in Africa.
Well, yeah, but we're finding out whole things. I just found out some more stuff. But those big turbines that make the electricity with a big...
The windmills, those giant windmills?
Yeah, have you ever been under one of them?
They're huge.
I was under one of them in Wyoming, and they oh, look how wonderful. They look like, good, they're obscene.
Get behind one of those giant propellers that's being driven down the freeway, then you really do.
Do you know how much one
Capture
of those blades weighs?
More than a ton.
81,000 pounds, and it has a lifespan of 15 to 20 years, and then what do you do with them? Those turbines that you're seeing require I don't know how much concrete, I forgot about that one. 295 tons of steel, 48 tons of iron, 24 tons of fiberglass, and some other hard to win earth, rare earth, whatever the hell I want. I can't even pronounce the damn thing.
Rare earth.
Now, that's only part of the problem.
Really, there's more?
There's more.
Pray tell.
It was like this. Remember when you could buy something, and not only that, but you get, and there's more.
There's more.
And there's more.
If you buy now.
If you buy now. Oh yeah.
You get a set of Ginsu knives.
Yeah, exactly. And remember Popeil's Pocket Fisherman?
Oh yeah.
Oh, do you really want to catch really big fish? No, stupid. I want to catch little tiny fish. What a stupid question it is. Anyway.
So pray tell, there's more. So what's the more?
Pray tell, there is more. And you got to buy today. Get about the electric car so we can save your green planet. Okay.
Because it's going up tomorrow.
Yes, it is, and it won't be on sale anymore. What about what's his name shoes? Oh God, my paper's stuck together. Here we go. That's the first part of the problem. This precious resource that they're digging out of the ground demand a lot of minerals needed to produce the so-called green energy technologies. But here's the other thing: between 2017 and 2022. Clean energy technology tripled the demand for lithium and created a 70% spike in cobalt demand. Did you know that? It's coming up.
No, but that's usually what happens when you need a product. The price goes up.
Exactly. The demand for copper as an energy transition material is expected to double in about, I'd say 3 or 4 years, according to this here. The production of minerals for the green energy sector will need to increase by 500% by 2050. That's only a few years away when you look at it. I thought it was a long ways ago, but it's not.
Comes upon us pretty fast.
The elements are primarily extracted from heavily drought. Now listen to this. Here's the key right here. The elements are primarily extracted from heavily drought-affected and arid regions. It's true in the United States, Australia, Chile, Argentina, so on and so forth. To make products such as solar panels, electric vehicles, batteries, and wind turbines, extensive mining and water are required. Here's the key. I used to be a little at the fringes of mining. I know what it takes. If you got a gold pan in a river and you're panning out gold with a gold pan, that takes a lot of water. Everything does. But critical minerals in green technology, copper, lithium, cobalt, nickel, and graphite require staggering, did I say that right? Staggering amount of water to produce. That's especially true of lithium, which uses 500,000 gallons of water per metric ton during the extraction.
That's almost like fracking.
Yes, worse than fracking. Fracking looks like nothing. The other elements used to build new technology, particularly copper, also require a lot of water. Any mining operation takes a lot of water. I don't care what it is. More than 100,000 gallons of water per ton of copper is used in domestic production, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. Mining in general it's always used a lot of water. It always has. Okay, I'm going to split on some stuff here.
Okay, get to the point. So what's the...
No, it'll take, don't crowd me.
Okay.
Don't crowd me. We'll get to you. State requires, okay, here's the other thing. What they're doing now is when you start digging a hole, it's like when you go down to the beach. You've been down to the beach, right, with your sons?
A couple times
Yeah,
in my
and you
life.
dig a hole in the sand, what happens? It fills with
water.
Right. So then you have to drain the water so that you can dig deeper, so that you drain the water so that you dig deeper. That's the only way you can do that. Well, that's what's called dewatering now.
Oh.
That's what they call it. Everything, what they're doing is they dig a hole for this deep pit mining. It affects everything around there, from springs to residential wells, plants, watersheds, and wildlife. It is compared, well, I just said that about the hole in the beach. That's what they're doing. They're dewatering the ground. That's the only part. See, that's the only part of this whole process.
Yeah, I don't see them concerned about that.
No. In the Cortez Hills, they're in Cortez Hills in Nevada, the groundwater has been lowered by 1,200 feet. This is going to affect everything: springs, surface water, animals, the whole 9 yards. That's what's coming because they're dewatering. Oh, it's called dewatering. Is that kind of a nice way to say it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go with that.
In Nevada, Lander County, Nevada, there is a lady.
Oh, Lander.
Yeah,
Famous for its turquoise.
Yeah. In Nevada?
Oh yeah, most of the turquoise comes from Nevada.
I thought it came from Arizona or Mexico.
No, but about 90% of today's turquoise comes from Nevada.
I be damned. I didn't know that. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Well,
And
anyway,
of course, some comes the Kingman mine in
I always
Kingman,
figured out
Arizona.
Navajo's out selling fake bracelets. So
No,
it's not.
well, a lot of their stuff. Well, a lot of the turquoise is kind of a byproduct of copper mines.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
And so the Navajos were employed by the copper miners, and at night the Navajos would take the turquoise because they valued the turquoise, and of course the copper miners didn't value that, so that's how the Navajos made how they used the turquoise for the bracelets.
you are just a font
Hurry up!
of information. Okay. In Lander County, there's a lady down there. She bought a homestead, and it sits within 10 foot of a groundwater. They call it drawdown plan for the area. Well, the problem is that the groundwater drawdowns are alarming for residents, for mining, for elements, and for what they're worried about is their streams. She bought this ground because it has 2 creeks on it. She's worried those creeks will no longer be there. That's one of her concerns. But let's go over to, not only in Lander County, but let's go to, I missed a whole bunch of them. In Chile, they have had riots over there because, and it's been going on for about 10 years, in a place called the Yujay province. The indigents are indigenous. How do you say that?
Indigenous peoples.
There we go. Thank you.
The natives.
The natives.
The brown people.
What?
The brown people.
Oh, okay.
The people of color.
They have been really trying to block roads and everything else because their whole environment is going straight to hell. The animals are having a hard time.
In other words, their culture is being decimated.
You betcha. Okay.
Just because you want to drive that electric car.
Yeah, because you were an environmental rapist. Anyway, one more thing here. In Lander County, this woman, Miss Tenney, was talking to these companies that were dewatering everything, deflowering everything. Is that another word I could use, deflowering? Kind of like being raped.
Kind of has a sexual undertone, overtone.
I didn't mean to turn this to smut. I'm sorry. Anyway, the mining companies, and I forget the name of the mining company. It was, it doesn't matter. It's one of these mining companies. They said they give her a crooked smile and they say, "Oh, don't worry, we'll take care of it. We'll put the water back." Where the hell are they going to get the water to put it back? They are lying to us. And I'll tell you what, you go ahead and buy yourself an electric car all you want, but you are not doing anything for our environment. You are, as far as I'm concerned, an environmental rapist. That's all I got. Goodbye.
So your game was just reading today.
Yeah, okay. Is that all right?
Well, I heard something the other day, and
You're going to sit and bitch and pick at me now?
I thought this is going to be kind of a economic cataclysmic shift. When they discovered oil in that whole Arabian basin, you had these goat herders become instant multi-billionaires. They had a resource that the Western world needed, which was the oil. And in fact, a little unknown history here is that a lot of missionaries had been in that whole Middle East, Arab land, and they were trying to evangelize them. And well, they didn't. They created these universities, American University, especially in Cairo, and they had these relationships with a lot of the sheikhs. So when they discovered oil, one of the reasons why a lot of these contracts went to Britain and some to America, but mostly to Britain, is because they were familiar with these British missionaries. Even though they didn't become Christian, they had a relationship. So there's the possibility that there might be a tectonic
It's easy for you to say.
economic shift if this whole Green New Deal goes through, from hydrocarbons, from that whole Arabian Basin to Africa. Now, why Africa? Because all those rare earth minerals are mostly in Africa. And guess who's trying to make headway in Africa right now, trying to lock up most of these mines?
Would that be China?
China. So while you're looking at this little shiny toy over here, China's locking up these mines. And they're not like, their idea of colonization is not like the British. When the British had their East India Company, which was around for about 200 years, they brought their governance and they brought jobs to people. And instead of lording it over the people, they essentially put them to work, and they said, you can become wealthy if we're giving you a job, and you can look up all this history. In fact, there's a little known history. If you look at the flag of the East India Company, you see, which was way before our American flag, you see that we ripped off the design of the East India Company. Did you know that?
Well, I certainly did not.
Check-
Kind of like Joe Biden stealing stuff?
Check it out. All that's different is in the area where of that top square, instead of stars, they had the Union Jack. So that's going to be interesting to watch for a lot of people.
Let's go back to Africa just for a second.
Yeah.
You people you're really proud of yourselves, patting yourself on the back, giving yourself whiplash for buying a green car. Who's digging that cobalt out of the ground for you? Let me tell you, little black children in Africa who are having to dig this out, and they're 6, 7, 8 years old, working themselves to death.
Yeah, have you seen the pictures? They're all huddled right next to each other.
Yeah.
And they're all just with their hands and no shoes and just picking at the earth.
You think about those little black kids making sure you can pat yourself on the back on how environmentally sensitive you are while these kids are working themselves to death. Good going, Alice.
Yeah, but it's so far away. In fact, most people don't even
Oh,
know
who
it's-
cares?
Have
They're
you
just a
se-
bunch
have
of
you-
brown
Have you
people.
seen all that garbage that's down by the border in Texas?
Yeah.
where the migrants are essentially just discarding all their ID, and they're discarding just
There goes the
clothes,
environment.
and it's just an absolute wasteland of trash.
Yep.
And the environmentalists don't seem to care about that.
No, they don't care
You have
about
a
that.
whole. It's like, if you trash Martha's Vineyard, then we're concerned.
Can't do that.
But if you trash parts of poor Texas and parts of poor rural Mexico, well, we really don't care about those people. Oh, and they tend to be brown. So
Yeah.
the Democratic Party says they care about these people. Do they really know? They're just using them. Come on, that's the game. But last week I talked about my education and indoctrination. And indoctrination is kind of a harsh word. With that word comes that somebody is consciously manipulating you, and that may be the case. But another better word is programming. Your computer is programmed. It's programmed by engineers, and they have their algorithms. It's, you type in a command and it responds, but it's all been programmed. It doesn't happen by alchemy or magic. It's all math. It's all higher math. And human beings, whether we know it or not, we're susceptible to programming. In fact, today, before I came here, I was watching a little bit of the impeachment inquiry at the committee, and there's already a game being played where the Republicans are stating that we have these facts, we have these bank records, we have these email texts from Hunter to his uncle Jim, and 50% to the big guy, and then you have the representatives of the Democratic Party going, all these facts have been debunked. There's nothing to see here. There's no facts. So
Russian influence.
that's all they're going to keep saying. Where are the facts? There's no facts. It's being debunked. You're being programmed. And of course, these are the guys with the $5,000 suits and the nice ties. They're up on the dais there, and they got the microphones, and they're in the House of Representatives. And so you go, well, they must be right. Well, they're being, they're being
Programmed.
Well, you're being programmed. Kind of had a little glitch in the matrix there. I kind of just went, just kind of
Did you
wandered
did you
off.
have one of those little things where you just
Yeah.
your mind quit working?
Yeah, but it reminded me, from what I promised last week, everything that's happening now, the precursor of that was the Alger Hiss Whittaker Chambers trial, because Alger Hiss was part of the Democratic establishment. So when Whittaker Chambers, in testimony in front of the Select Committee on Un-American Activities, that's the name of it. I got it wrong last week, but it's Select Committee of Un-American Activities. And Richard Nixon was a junior senator, and so he kind of got his start there. He made his name during that Alger Hiss trial. Whittaker Chambers said that Alger Hiss was in the State Department, was involved in signing at Yalta with FDR. He was a big player in the Democratic Party, and he was at the administration under Truman. Whittaker Chambers said he was a communist, and he became a whistleblower against his better judgment. He was a communist during the 20s, and he wanted to report about these cells when he had his big breakthrough and realized that communism was like a religion. I'm gonna condense all this. The book is about 700 pages. By mistake, I said 100 pages. It's a 700-page book, and he said it's a godless religion. It's like a religion to these people. He says, I would have died for it. And he realized there was a God in heaven, and he became a Christian, and most specifically a Quaker, which essentially gave him affinity with Richard Nixon, who was brought up a Quaker. So he reluctantly became a witness. That's the name of the book, a great autobiography. And he did not want to become a witness because he realized by becoming a witness and essentially saying that that Alger Hiss was a communist, he realized he would also not only be destroying Alger Hiss, but himself, because he realized that the whole apparatus of the Communist Party from Russia would come after him, and that the Democratic Party would come after him. And that's exactly what happened. In fact, after the first hearing, somebody came up to one of the Republican committee members and said, "Don't you know that Whittaker Chambers is a drunk?" And from there on out, Alger Hiss went on the offense. He said he gave a list of all the people, all the important people. It was like a who's who of the Democratic administration, of these people that he was friends with. In fact, I was one time listening to a documentary about how to catch liars, and it was put out by the CIA, and they essentially said when somebody is lying, they will usually give you a resume. I've always, like if somebody's been accused of cheating on his wife, he'll say, "I've always been for women's rights. I've always respected women. Everybody around me knows that I'm faithful to my wife. I've been married to my wife for 35 years, and nobody's ever charged me with that." See, he's giving you a resume. Instead of saying, "That's ridiculous, get the F out of here, I'm totally faithful to my wife." So that's what Alger Hiss did. He essentially gave a resume, and then leaked through committee, leaked through his surrogates. They started to attack Whittaker Chambers as somebody who had been in a mental institution. So by the time, from the time that Whittaker Chambers accused Alger Hiss to the time that Alger Hiss was convicted, Whittaker Chambers' life was a living hell. He pretty much suffered from PTSD, and the press came after him. He lost his job. He was editor at Time Magazine. He lost his job. He also was discredited by Harry Truman. Harry Truman kind of leaked out some things, because essentially what he was saying is the Democratic Party has communists, and these communists are in Harry Truman's administration. So these people couldn't have that. And you kind of see that now. The Democrats can't have Biden being accused of corruption because then it would involve all of them. So they're all doubling down now. They're protecting their own. They're circling the wagons, as we say.
Yes.
And so that's exactly what the Democrats did during all these committee hearings. They circled the wagons and they went after Whitaker Chambers because Alger Hiss, like I said in the previous podcast, if you see him on YouTube, the guy was right out of Casting Central. Articulate, well manicured, while Whitaker Chambers was fat, soft-spoken, and clumsy. So who are you going to believe, right? We live in a visual world. So if you read this book, what's amazing about the book is how Whitaker Chambers knew that his life would be destroyed. And he even took pains just to say that, I don't want to say that Alger Hiss committed espionage, because if he said that, that would have destroyed Alger Hiss. In fact, all the other people that he said were communists, he just didn't want to go there. And so he appeared on Meet the Press back in the day, which was a radio show, and he knew if he would have said that Alger Hiss was a communist on Meet the Press, that he could be sued because he was no longer under the protection of the committee.
Right.
And he was sued by Alger Hiss. And when he was under a deposition, there's this one rule, time traveler, and they say this all the time, if you're a lawyer, don't ask a question that you don't know
the answer to. Yeah.
So first, Alger Hiss said he never knew the guy, then eventually said, well, I might know somebody like him. And Whitaker Chambers knew him, stayed at his house. Alger Hiss had bought a car for him. All these things he was extremely evasive. In fact, Richard Nixon said, man, the way you answer questions, you pretty much sound like a guilty guy. And he goes, well, you know, I'm the one being charged here, so I have to be very careful how I answer. He was evasive. He was so evasive that anybody with eyes to see and ears to hear could see that he was, you know, there was something to the fact that he might be a communist because he was not being forthright. And they asked him, the lawyer for Alger Hiss, asked Whitaker Chambers, well, if he was a communist, I bet you don't have something to the effect that, do you have anything that he has written or any proof that he was a communist? Shouldn't have said that, because Whitaker Chambers actually did. He had some typewritten and handwritten notes that he had saved from Alger Hiss, and he had some microfilm. And I don't want to get into the whole thing, but eventually that's what convicted Alger Hiss. It was proved that they found a typewriter and it was his typewriter that had produced these papers that Whitaker Chambers had actually saved in the late 20s, and I believe this whole thing was about 1947, 1948. So he kept these things for a long time hidden, that he'd given to one of his friends for safekeeping. So he brought it out, and it was all dusty. And this is what saved Whitaker Chambers. And even though Alger Hiss was convicted, he, to his dying breath, said he was an innocent man. And even through the Venona papers came out that, yes, that Alger Hiss was a spy. So how does that relate to today? Well, look at all the people that have come out against Biden, all the whistleblowers. They try to destroy these people so that they can't have a job. That's what happened to Whitaker Chambers. They try to say that these people are crazy, just like Whitaker Chambers. They try to say that, well, he must be mistaken, or he's a drunk, or they try to go after them about their picadillos, their sexual proclivities, so on and so forth.
Yeah,
and the Democratic Party, the Power Democratic Party, all went after, and the media all went after Whitaker Chambers. They could not believe that Alger Hiss was a communist.
Well, in today's world, they're not happy just discounting you. They're not happy with just saying, okay, he's wrong, or he's this, or he's that. They have got to destroy your whole entire life. Your whole. Look at what they're doing to Trump right now. You think all these charges all of a sudden just came out of nowhere? They've been going around there for 20 years. All of a sudden now during an election, how many charges you got now? A whole bunch.
Yeah. In fact, there
Is
was
that what they want to do? Really, is financially break him. Which
Right.
That's your whole point that they want to do, and they're working at it. And I don't know if they're going to be successful or not.
and they're going to program people with insurrection. Jamie Raskin, who's
Say the same thing over and over and over and over again.
who's the lead Democrat in the committee for impeachment inquiry. That's all he's repeating every 24/7. Insurrection, insurrection, insurrection. And you know, when people say I'm going to fight for you, that doesn't mean physically they're going to go out there with fisticuffs. And so, what Jamie Raskin, Democrat, on the committee, he's saying, you know, when Trump said, you know, you go out there and fight, he's trying to make that link that and take it out of context that Trump actually meant to go physically fight.
Yeah.
And now, come on.
That's juvenile thinking. You know, remember the spy plane they shot down with this? I think a congressman or a senator on it. The Russians.
Oh yeah, that was back in the '60s. The U-2,
Yeah.
U-2 spy plane.
No. This was a passenger plane. They shot down.
Oh no.
They called it a spy plane. They called it a spy plane.
You mean who's they? You mean the Russians called it or we called it?
Probably them, and they started. We continued on with it. The media said we kept referring it to as a spy plane.
Okay.
It wasn't. It was a passenger plane, but they kept using the word spy plane so that now when you talk about it, you say the spy plane. It never was a spy plane. It was a passenger plane that went offline.
Okay. They being
Whoever.
the news, or was that?
Probably, yeah. You don't remember that, huh?
These people expect us to be precise. So, because you know, and it frustrates me when you hear a lot of people say they. Usually, they is the opposition.
Well, who is they is everybody. We got the media, we got the Russians. Then they kept saying the same thing, spy plane. They changed the name of it to spy plane. Words, they keep repeating them and they become true after a while if they say it over and over again.
Right. Well, it's part of the programming. It's part of the manipulation.
And get back to that. Words is another thing. You got to be careful with words because words mean things. Now, when I was growing up, there were people in our neighborhood out in El Dorado County, rural, who had once in a while fall on hard times. So they went on what was called relief, and they didn't want their neighbors to know they were on relief. And they got off of relief just as fast as they could. And they made sure nobody knew that they were using relief to buy their groceries. Then they changed the word. They changed the word to welfare. Now it's a little more palatable. And then they changed that word to entitlement. Oh, now I'm entitled. Same thing, different word, different meaning. And now, so that you make sure you don't get embarrassed, say, what is it, EBT cards? They give you an EBT. It looks like a credit card.
You know what I just heard the other day?
What?
You know, you used to refer to heroin addicts or drug addicts. Now there's a word called opiate use syndrome.
Well, you know, and then we got to go into the homeless thing. They got the unhoused.
And instead of saying mother, they can't say mother anymore because that would mean a woman. So what do they say? Birthing person or birthing parent?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, we really are, you know, again, with those with eyes to see and ears to hear, we are going through a cultural revolution. And you have the ESG, which is environmental, social governance. And so corporations, they're essentially, it's a credit score for corporations. So if a corporation isn't buying sustainable products or essentially backing the big oil companies, guess what? The big capital, the big money people are going to go, the big bankers go, we're not going to give you any capital for you to grow. We're going to cut off your banking. That's like it's a corporate credit system, just like in China they have a social credit system. So if you've got the wrong think, they can essentially negate you and cancel you from your banking. You know, you read your Bible.
They did that in Canada.
Yeah, they did that in Canada. Just read your Bible, Book of Revelation. You know, the mark of the beast, where you can neither buy nor sell. It's all there. In fact, most of the things you can learn in the Book of Genesis, you know, where Eve eats the apple and She doesn't. Oh, is your car running?
No.
Oh.
Why?
Oh, I just thought it was running. I'm sorry, folks. Where Eve eats the apple, and of course Adam eats the apple, and God says, "Did you eat the apple?" And he says, "Well, the woman you gave me, she's the one who
Well,
who made me do it."
that,
So everybody passes, and then Eve, what did you do? Well, the snake is the one that deceived
yeah.
me.
Oh,
No,
he did it. He did it. He did it.
that right there, friends, is the human condition.
And then Adam came back and doubled down and blamed God. He said, if you hadn't sent me that woman in the first place, it's
That's
his
right.
fault.
It's all right there. And then, of course, the first siblings, one ends up being jealous of his brother, and what does he do? He kills him.
Yep.
He eliminates the problem, although God tells him, sin is crouching at the door for you, and its desire is for you. Human beings, like it says in the book of Ecclesiastes, there's nothing new under the sun. And it's not talking about technology. It's talking about the human condition. You can acquire a lot of things, and it's not going to make you happy. There's that God deficit in your soul, and people want to fill it with possessions, with drugs, with sex, with travel, and
Here's a bigger.
Go ahead. It's never going to be filled. Go ahead.
It's one of the bigger issues. They were talking about artificial intelligence, the Meadows meeting yesterday, day before yesterday. And so I raised my hand, and somebody
Meddler's
wants...
Meeting, folks, is a little meeting here in Auburn at City Hall for the people to come and talk to the mayor and other people in a very casual setting on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
At 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock in the morning, which I've never seen you at.
I've only been to 2 for
Okay.
about
Well,
an
you have
hour.
been. Anyway, it's difficult to get there that early. But I did bring up something that's coming that somebody once said. We are, as a people, a bizarre collection of Neanderthal emotions, middle-aged superstitions, and godlike technology. And therein lies our problem, because we have now the technology of a god, but we still have the emotions of a Neanderthal, and that's our problem. And the
And
reason,
misplaced feelings.
and I use an example. This cemetery, I know a lot of dead people here. That one just waved. Anyway, we've lost. I've lost my train of thought. That guy there lost my train of thought. He has a dog I like.
Talking about dead people.
Dead people.
Talking about AI.
No AI. But the problem is that if you took this simple cell phone, as simple as it is, and call it AI, you take AI and you throw it into the ape cage, the monkey cage, the gorilla. He sits there and he looks at it and he goes, no. He'll get bored with it in a minute, and he throws it on the cage floor. Then he sits on it. That's okay. He can't do you any damage to that phone, but now get it back away from him. And that's where we are with this AI. We've lost control of our own technology. We are the monkey, and this little cell phone that we're sitting on is the AI.
It can run the show if you
It
let
will.
it. If you let it. But if there's hope out there, there's hope.
Where?
Well, look. You could be overwhelmed with despair, overwhelmed and depressed, but God is in heaven. God is in charge, and we think that we're in charge. But there's a little proverb that says, "There's a way that seems right to a man, and in the end, it's death." And so, there's an ebb and flow in society. And if you read the Old Testament, you had seasons where you had all these bad kings, and eventually you had a good king, and you had bad kings, and then you had some good kings, and some of these seasons lasted a long time. But there's people that are in the battle, and at the end of the day, kind of like that Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young song, "Love the One You're With," it's family. Family's really important, and we have a current culture here that wants to destroy the family, because that's the building block to society. Because once you lose the family, who's in charge? The government wants to run your
Right,
family. And those are
absolutely.
some of the battles right now in school boards is who's in charge? Are you in charge of your kids, or is government in charge of your kids? And so many of us are saying, nay, we're in charge. And that's the battle. You are in a battle.
Government wants to tell you what kind of light bulb to buy, what kind of washer and dryer to buy, what kind of car to buy.
Yeah.
They want to tell you everything.
And in fact, in the old days, and I don't necessarily want to go back to the old days, but in the old days when you can talk about God, if you're brought up a Christian, you pretty much understood that you have now been born into a spiritual battle. There is a spiritual battle between good and evil. In fact, St. Paul said, you know, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but principalities and higher powers. And he told his fellow believers that you have to put on the full armor of God. Why? Because you're in a spiritual battle, one with yourself, because there's a battle within yourself, and then there's a battle within those people who are evildoers, hunchback evildoers, as Alex Jones would say. And they're there to corrupt and destroy the family. In fact, that was part of that whole Black Lives Matter thing. They were there, they said, to essentially dismantle the nuclear family.
Well,
I mean, it was right there in...
Lyndon Johnson did that a long time ago.
Well, yeah, he wanted voters.
It doesn't
had
matter.
said- yeah.
That's what he did with, but making sure that women now were married to the government to get rid of the old man. That started a long time
That's
ago.
right. So I think we should end this because I'm burning up.
Yeah,
on
and
this.
I'm tired- I'm tired
next
of
time,
talking
Next time,
anyway.
let's do this in the shade, okay? Because I was like, oh, my
quit
God.
being a whiner. Good Lord,
okay,
you're a
we'll do this
whiner.
next
You know what? You're from the south of the nation. You should know that. You
Are-
should
are
be
you done?
comfortable in the sun.
Are you
What?
done?
I'm done.